everyone. It's your girl Miracle Sims, and you're watching the GSL Talk Show. Tonight, we'll be chatting with author C.K. Collins, aka Miss Kelly. So I hope that you all enjoyed this conversation. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the GSL Talk Show. I am here with the lovely Miss C.K. Collins, aka Miss Kelly. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Fantastic.
Welcome to GSL.
Thanks, Sam.
We've been through some things, Miss Kelly and I. So I'm just at this point, I'm just glad she's here.
I'm so glad to be here. I've been excited to talk to you. I've enjoyed listening to your podcast. So it's my turn.
Yes, it's all your turn because this is all about you, ma'am. Tell us where you are from and a little bit about yourself.
I am from Nashville, Tennessee, and I have actually lived in like 11 or 12 places. I live in Rhode Island right now, but all my family's back in Tennessee. I just wanted to live by the ocean for a while and give it a shot. So I do, and it's really fun. I'm a former online news publisher. I used to have a group of small town newspapers, but without the paper because everything was online. And I sold that business in 2018. And I stayed on with them for 3 years, and I retired in 2021. And I did this crazy thing. I sold my house and I gave away all my stuff, except for a tiny little storage unit. And I traveled for a year, and then I wrote a book about 6 months ago. And so it's just been a wild ride and so much fun and just meeting people from all over the world.
Well, listen, all of that sounds amazing, really. I mean, I know you probably came to talk about your book, but I would love to hear more about like the newspaper and all of that. Sounds really cool.
Yeah. Well, the next book is about all the travels, so.
Nice. Look,
yeah,
okay.
I'm excited about that one too.
Awesome. So, where to start? What got you into, if you don't mind sharing with us a little bit about that? Like, what got you into the business that you had and then sold?
I had always been a writer, and I met this woman actually in my Sunday school class, and her children were friends with my children at church, and we knew each other, but we weren't really friends. I was pretty much an at-home mom. I just did freelancing and part-time stuff because I was taking care of the family. And the stock market hit the skids in 2008, and we had a senior in high school. And I was like, I need to go back to work. There's no reason why I can't be working. And so, but I also was like the queen of volunteering. And one of the things I'd already volunteered for was to do the playbill because my daughter was in a musical. And so it's just basically the program. And this friend, Susan, also volunteered to do that. And we started talking about, we're both looking for jobs. We found out we were actually applying for the same jobs. And then she shared with me this idea that she had about starting a local newspaper because the paper of record in the town, which was a Gannett-owned paper, had been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking their staff. And there was no news about the suburban towns. And and she had been laid off from that newspaper. So she had this idea and we started talking. She's like, but I don't know how I'd make money. And I was like, well, I know how to sell advertising. And we, 6 months later, we started a business together, and it was beautiful experience because it was for our hometown where I grew up and where our
Mhm.
children were growing up, and we covered high school sports, and we just got to know the town so well. And then after 3 years, we started expanding, and we started a new newspaper every year for like 8 years, and then sold it in 2018. So it was great.
That is really cool. And you said it was all online.
Yes, all online. Yeah.
Cool.
And it was kind of a new thing back in 2009. And
Mhm.
we were kind of felt like pioneers, with our little wagon and our little bonnets.
Yeah,
We were,
yeah.
yeah, we were definitely didn't have a lot of people that we could mimic or try to learn from. We were really just making it up as we went along. So it was really fun because I love to do that. I love to build stuff. I love to create something new. And so that was really fed me just as a professional woman. It was great.
Mhm. Yeah, man. Like I said, it really sounds cool because I guess in a small town that I grew up in, there was like only one newspaper, and it's probably
Right.
still only one newspaper.
Yeah.
And it definitely was like one of the hard copies. I remember having to go with my mom. She was like, "Oh, go get a couple of quarters
Yeah.
and get a newspaper out of the whole thing." So for you all to figure out a way to do that all online, and that sounds really cool to me. I don't know,
Yeah, now
like.
they're everywhere. Now there's like every
Mhm.
hometown has one or two. So,
Yeah, yeah, they do have like an online version now, I would say, for that paper, but
yeah.
yeah, back in the day, I mean, that was look,
Yeah. I mean, it's really brings the community together. And we just, because there was no news, it was hard for the community to kind of know what was going on. And it was just basically pulling together a lot of information that was out there, a lot of information that people needed to know and people needed to disseminate, like business owners that wanted people to show up to their ribbon cutting and, you know,
Mhm.
football games and basketball games and softball games. And because I had all daughters, we covered all the girls' sports. I love that. So that was kind of a
Nice.
neat twist that, other newspapers wouldn't take.
That's
Girl
really
power.
cool. Yeah. Yes. I'm sitting here thinking, so is there a it's just was you two, or did you guys have, other people that did articles,
It
or
was
you
just
guys went
us.
everywhere?
Yeah, it was just us for 2.5 years. I think the first person we hired was an intern to do like our social media because we get so busy writing the articles and covering the sports that we would forget to post on social media. So that was the first person we hired. And then the second person we hired was a sports editor. And she did most of the writing herself, but then we were able to start hiring freelancers. And then our second full-time employee was for a reporter for our second newspaper. So that was kind of our first real big, we got an office and we stopped working out of Susan's sunroom. And it was just like a home office for 2.5 years. And we said, now we're big girls because we have an office. But it was
Yeah.
great. It was just so great. It was such a great time in my life. I loved it. And I loved that my daughters got to watch me build that and grow that. And they were proud of me. And, it was really cool.
Yeah, man. Okay, so it's still going. It's still going and thriving now.
Yeah, it's still going. I left in 21, but it's still going
Mhm.
without me.
Well,
Thank
hey, I
goodness.
mean, that's
I
a
would have felt
blessing.
bad if it didn't.
Yeah, I mean, but that is a blessing that, it's able to continue. You're, doing more things. I mean, we got to get into that year of travel and just running away and whatnot too. I don't know what you're running away from, but well,
Yeah.
I guess we'll get into that. But so you said, was this the beginning stages of you learning that, okay, I'm into writing, or would you say that it's been something that all your life, and then this was a way for you to really get into it and hone those skills, and then
Yeah.
now the books and whatnot, like.
I had a column in the newspaper and I did write some. I was our first sports reporter. So
Mhm.
I was covering football games and soccer games and basketball games. But I always loved to write. And the first time I read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, there was
Mhm.
something about the way she put all the words together that just fascinated me and how she could draw that picture of people and the
Mhm.
conversations they were having. And I remember going to my freshman college professor saying, I want to write like Jane Austen. And she just looked at me like, girl, you got a long way to go. But but I
Oh.
never really was interested in writing about fiction. I really wanted to write about real life. And so that's why the news business was so appealing to me. And it's still storytelling, but it's stories of people's lives. And so that was fun. And then during the travel over the year, I started thinking about all my friends and different times in my life when they gave me advice. And really, I was just trying to live a life of gratitude. And I was just seeing the incremental way that I had let myself open up to people and how that came back to me, that vulnerability paid off in connection. And so that's every chapter of my book is I talk about a tough thing going on in my life, a piece of advice that a friend gave me, and then I interview the person who gave me that advice. So it's still storytelling. It's just real life. And, and then we talk about hard stuff and we talk about online dating too, and stuff like that, when to have sex and when not to, but it's really about all the stuff that gets you ready and leads you up to being ready to date, after divorce or after anything, after a big life change, a loss of a spouse, whatever, it's just about friendship really and conversations.
That's really cool. All right. And look, that's needed definitely in these days and times. I hear so much about, marriage and dating where it makes me grateful for my marriage every day. I can't lie. Like on one hand, I'm like, when I see it, I'm like, Lord, thank God for taking me out of the dating pool. I'm glad I'm not out there anymore. But on the flip side, I'm like, oh man, I feel bad for the other singles that are out there. And because there are people that do value marriage and stuff, but the ones that don't have a lot of voices, and it's just,
Right.
So it's interesting out there. So
it is. It's an interesting world, the dating world.
No.
But
yes, I say all the time.
Fun. It's also fun if you can approach it like I'm going to meet new people and that's all I'm really going to do. And then if love follows, love follows. But if you are just excited to meet new people and learn new things from them, I think it can be a really rewarding thing to do. I mean, I've met a lot of people. I don't want to talk about how many, but I've met a lot of people in the dating world. So.
Well, hey, that sounds like more of a book coming. I don't know.
Instead of just two chapters, it'll be a whole book. Yeah.
Maybe. So, I mean, well, what is the name of the book?
It's called The Swipe Right Effect, The Power to Get Unstuck. And so it's kind of a play on words, from swipe right and the dating app if you choose someone. And I'm saying you need to choose yourself first, and you need to work on yourself first and be happy with yourself before you start dating. So it's like, so I'm saying choose yourself. And then and the power to get unstuck. It's like a lot of people walk out of a marriage or, death of a spouse, and they just walk straight into dating, and they haven't really figured out that they're stuck and that they have some heartache that they still need to deal with. It can be anger or forgiveness or, whatever. But, and so I really just want people to understand that they have the power to choose to be happy. And hopefully you do it in the right order so that you're happy. Somebody who's dating somebody that's already happy is going to be a lot more fun to date if they have done the work. And I see that on dating apps. I hope you've done your work. And that's what this is about. It was for me. This was my journey of doing my work, because I think I didn't realize I was stuck. And so I had really great friends who helped me recognize it, but then also had been through stuff themselves. And so they shared with me how they got unstuck. And that wasn't really the original title. It came about like after all of the conversations, everybody was talking about how they were stuck. And I was like, wow, this is a thing. Like, you get stuck after a job loss, you get stuck after a death, you get stuck after a divorce, and not everybody's lucky to just be unstuck. Most of us get stuck because of one thing or another. And that's what this is about, is getting unstuck. So.
Listen, yes, ma'am. I agree with everything that you're saying there. I definitely feel like, at least on my journey, I definitely had to take some time to do some work on me. And a lot of that was changing my mindset about how I was looking at dating and all that different type of stuff. I wrote about it too. It's a whole thing.
Yep.
But I mean, yeah, I'm totally there with you. And I would say that's one of the things that I've observed in others where I'm like, I've noticed that some people aren't, either they're not ready or they seem to be not willing to do that work on self, and whatnot. Like they would rather, I guess, point fingers at the other person. And it's like, I mean, I just know for me, back in the day, I had to look at myself and say, okay, you know what, Miracle, you are the common denominator in these situations. So yes,
Yes,
I'm sure, that there's things that the, person I was dealing with or whatever could have done as well. But what can you do better to get to where you want to be and things like that? And so I feel like that's where, God used all those things to kind of show me where I needed to, do better and get better at,
exactly.
and then
Exactly.
prepare me to be where I'm at now. And so it's just one of these things. So, well, first, shout out to your friends. Woo!
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they're so, they're so amazing. And they were really, really brave to open up. I mean, I guess we all were, but I
Mhm.
gave them all kind of aliases, so they're all private conversations, and I wanted them to be able to open up without worrying about their kids or their mom or whatever. And
Mhm.
so that I gave them, and because I'm from Nashville, I gave them all country music names. So we have Loretta and Dolly and Shania and just funny
Oh,
names. And some of the men are like, country music men, Garth Brooks and Hank Williams. And so it's just all of these funny aliases because it's a lot of serious topics. So I mean, we crack jokes
mhm.
in the interviews, but it's serious topics. So I wanted to do something a little lighthearted with their nicknames.
Well, that's fun as well. So what made you think? I mean, because you were in Tennessee, or was there
Oh
anything else
no,
that was like,
it really wasn't my idea. I mean, it came from, I was talking to my friend and her name starts with an L. And I said,
Mhm,
you're only the third person I've talked to. Do you want to choose your alias? I just kind of just now thought to ask you if you wanted to do that. And she
mhm.
said, oh yeah, I'll be Loretta. And I went, like Loretta Lynn? She said, yeah. And I just went, oh my gosh, that would be funny. And some of them,
Mhm.
and not any of the 10 women chose the same name. So it was really funny. And there was only one true blonde and she chose Dolly. And so it was just perfect.
I love it.
But yeah, they all got a really big kick out of it. And we eventually had a Zoom meeting where all the different when I launched the book, all the interviewees came together and got to meet each other. And so they all put, down at the bottom where it says your name, they all put their nicknames. But it's
Love
just
it.
fun. It was just a fun, silly thing to do. And it was kind of a shout out to Nashville.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cute. I love it. And like I said, I definitely love that you tackled this thing in regards to dating and whatnot. So I don't know if it's too deep, but would you like to share the inspiration for that? Like, is it just really just you and your thing, and you were like, okay, I'm doing a date or something? Like, what led up to this?
Well, my marriage ended kind of dramatically. It turned out my ex-husband had been having an affair and it was a long-term affair. And there had been some gaslighting, I'm saying, I know something's wrong. I know something's wrong. And it's like, no, no, everything's fine. Everything's fine. So when it came out, it was just kind of like, wow, I just wasted a lot of years of my life. And so I jumped right into dating. And
Mm,
I was frustrated that I had lost those years. And so I was just determined to bulldoze ahead and I didn't do the work. And
mm,
so I did go to therapy. I did a very dramatic thing in that I decided to hike a 500-mile hike in Spain. It's called the Camino de Santiago. And so
mm,
I trained for that and I went and I left my business for 7 weeks and I prepared my business for it to be gone. I had to stop acting like a hero and let people do things. And so,
yeah,
it really started, that changed my life and helped me see things in a different way. I didn't have to be a business owner to survive, didn't have to be a wife to be happy, and I started growing, and I started, and my friends were helping me, like, stop beating yourself up. You are enough. Somebody gave me a bracelet that said, you are enough. And I'm like, oh, wow. Nobody's ever told me that before, ever. I'm 52 years old and nobody's ever told me I'm enough. And I always felt like I had to be more. I had to do more. And so it was just little moments like that that end up being completely life-changing. And I realized last year, even 4 years after, that I still had this pain that I was holding on to. And I didn't realize I was holding on to it until somebody said that one thing that made me see it. And they just said, all that pain that you're carrying around isn't hurting anybody else. It's just a boomerang and it keeps coming back and hurting you. It's not hurting your ex-husband. It's only hurting you. And so, stop holding on to this pain like it's making somebody pay for something. And man, and I just found the words in a book called The Secret. I found the words that helped me let it go. I forgive you, I release you, and I want you to be happy. And I just kept saying it until it worked, until I really felt it and believed it. And I just felt like I had wings after that. And I was just, nothing can stop me. And this book just poured out of me, and the interviews were so inspiring. And it just became just this huge life lesson for me to write the book, and which all of that led to gratitude and just living a life of gratitude. Yes, bad things have happened to me, and yes, they were hard and they stunk, but it all led to me right here with you, Miracle, and getting to talk about this book that's so important to me. And now that I understand how wonderful my life is, I want to help other people get unstuck. I want their anger to go away. I want them to be able to forgive. I want them to know they're enough. And if they can read my book and get that, I hope they will.
Wow, that
now.
Yes, ma'am. Well, first I want to say thank you so much for being transparent and vulnerable and sharing that information and whatnot. I mean, I am sad to hear about the infidelity and whatnot like that, but I'm glad to hear of how you took the power in whatever ways you felt fit at that time. And I loved also to hear that you were able to forgive and whatnot, which is a huge important thing. I know the Bible tells us to do that, and I know. People say, either ministers or people that talk about forgiveness, they talk about, well, because it's for you, it's not for that person, it's for you, and things like that, And I kind of struggle sometimes. I'm like, okay, so if I forgive somebody, does that mean I have to tell them, or do I just do it for me and don't say nothing about it? That doesn't mean I have to deal with them still. All that, try to figure out
like
the
details about that. Yeah, is there a rule? There's a really good book about forgiveness that helped me, and I talk about it in that chapter, but it's called The Art of Forgiving, and he gives you 3 steps to forgiveness. And I think that one little thing really helps a lot of people to can you just give me steps 1, 2, 3? Do I have to figure this out on my own? Do I have to walk this path by myself? No, you don't. There are resources out there, and your friends are there, and it's that being vulnerable and allowing someone else to see your pain that is actually what's going to get you to the forgiveness stage, letting people help you. And I don't know the answer to, do you have to tell them or not? But I did. I had that moment. And I think it was great for both of us going forward, but it was most especially good for my children. They needed that. They needed that. They needed me to be able to have that forgiveness for him so that they too felt permission. Because sometimes I think people hold back on forgiveness because they're afraid it condones the behavior. It makes it okay that they did what they did. And that's not true. It's not true that it's okay what they did. It doesn't change what they did. The only thing that changes is your heart.
You know what? You over here just dropping the mic and stuff, Miss. Okay.
I wrote a long time about this.
I mean, but that is so true, and I forgot about that aspect as well. That you're married with children and whatnot, and it does have an effect on the overall family. And I think I don't know if you want to talk about infidelity for a moment,
sure.
But my thing is just, I think sometimes when people are in moments, right, they forget about that this will affect every aspect of my life, and it's not just me, right? It's not just my wife, it's my kids, it's whatever, it's just,
Yeah, your parents,
I,
my
I
parents,
wish more
brothers,
people,
sisters. Yeah. Yeah, it
yeah, the
affects everyone.
families, yeah, it's like we need to think about these things before we take certain actions or whatnot. And I know maybe when we're in the moments, we just, I guess, are selfish in that way as humans,
Right.
but I hope and pray that, maybe this conversation or just in general that people would think a little bit more before certain actions are being made or whatnot, especially when it comes to marriage or any of these things. And I kind of want to talk to you because since you've been, dropping them throughout this conversation, it's like, and I feel funny because on one hand, I feel like I was talking about this morning on the daily inspiration segment. But anywho,
Oh, well, there
this
you
whole
go.
thing about
Alignment.
your friends, right? You've been mentioning your friends. Like, I know sometimes we struggle with those relationships as well. And it seems like you cultivated or were able to have great friendships that, encouraged you, inspired you, lifted you up and things like that. So, I mean, I know you probably don't want to reveal who everybody is and things like that, but like, I don't know what can you share about like the friendships? Like how long have they, like, were they high school friend, like, or adult life friends, or like these friends that were there for you?
Right.
What would you share about your friendship with these individuals
Well,
that you
with
feel comfortable?
Dolly, we talk about community because she's been divorced twice and she is still just such a type A like me. Like we want to be out and meeting people and hanging out with our girlfriends. And so I asked her to talk about community and, how important it is and how lonely it is if you don't have a community. And so we went to middle school together. And
No.
then Shania was one of my neighbors and we
Okay.
became best friends, and her
Mhm.
oldest and my youngest were best friends too, and they played on the travel soccer team, and so we were always together. And then three of the women I met on the Camino on that 500-mile hike in Spain, and we have stayed close friends and in touch. And when I asked them, and actually I will say all 10 women, when I asked them, will you do this with me? And I'll make sure you're protected and it's private. And they were like, oh, I don't have anything to say. And I'm like, girl, you like saved my life. You have something to say. And
Mhm.
but I mean, we even have a chapter where there's that's on grief, and there's two widows and another dear friend who was another neighbor who lost her
Mhm.
son to suicide. And so,
Mhm.
like, they really were open about this stuff. And and the woman I met from South Africa on the Camino, she lost her husband in a very dramatic fashion, and after his death, found out that he had been cheating on her. Yeah. So, I mean, these are stories that were even harder than mine. These are hard things that these incredibly brave women came through and then helped me,
Mhm.
so that it's really interesting how they're all over, from all over the world. And one's from Canada, one's from Sweden, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, it's like they're kind of from all over, but they're amazing women. Amazing.
Well, again, shout out to the friends, shout out to you for embarking on this journey and not only going through it and learning for yourself, but then putting it together for you to be able to share with others. Like, what was the inspiration behind that? I mean, I know generally it was like, okay, I want to just, obviously to help people, but like, what was it that made you like think like, you know what, I need to document this. I need to put this in a book. I need to get this out there to others. Like,
Yeah, I think because it was solo travel that whole year, it was like October of 21 to September of 22. And
mhm,
because it was mostly solo travel, I had a lot of time to think. I hiked a lot. I hiked in
mhm,
Patagonia, I hiked in Portugal, I hiked in Spain. And I just kept I would just be like, wow, she did that for me. And I just kept getting my gratitude tube was filling up, and it just it felt like I'm overflowing with love for these people and how much they did for me. And I just felt like not everybody has friends like this. And I know how lucky I am. And one of my friends says, well, you have friends like this because you're so open. Like half of them are introverts. I'm the one who was like, blah, blah, blah. so, so yeah. And she's right. And we have that conversation in the book. I am very open, but, it was, their heart for me that, was the impetus for them to share that stuff. And I just realized I know people who don't have friends. I know people who are no, they're not alone. They think they're alone. And so if somebody is alone and they pick up this book, I want them to connect with my friends. I want them to connect with me. And a lot of people aren't willing to be vulnerable and share their pain. And so, and I know this to be true because people have sent me private messages on Facebook on my author page, and they've written me emails and sent me texts. Like, I never had anybody ever tell me that this happened to them and this also happened to me. And now I know I'm not alone. Like, wow. Wow. I'm not alone. Yeah. Yeah. You're not. I'm here.
Yes. Girl, you sound like me back in the day when I first got on YouTube talking about being a Christian single woman. And that was like one of my first videos, like, hey, I feel alone. I don't know anybody else out there, going through what I'm going through. The beginning stages of GSL.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that. I love it. Yeah. This is my beginning stages. You were a little
those videos.
I'm a late bloomer.
I had a little fro, and I
Nice.
was just talking to people. Like I was like, I called it the Hopeful Romantic as a playlist. It's still on. Yeah, it's still out there, y'all.
I'm gonna go find that. Maybe I could get some advice from you.
The Hopeful Romantic. Yeah, I was single at that time, and I'm like, just trying to navigate it all and stuff, and trying to be like, it's a whole thing. Anyway, enough about me. It's all about you.
No, I'm a hopeful romantic too, so I appreciate that. Yeah, it's.
Yes, I was like, I believe that this man is out here. I don't know where he is. Every man I meet is a prospect until proven not.
Yeah. And one of the things that my friend, what is her name in the book? One of the things my friend says is when she was getting a divorce, she called her mom, and her mom said, the first thing her mom said to her was, the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. And I think no matter where you are in your life, if you have the right attitude and you live a life of gratitude, have an attitude of gratitude. I think the best is yet to come, because I mean, I'm living it. My life just keeps getting better and better, even though I went through all those hard things. And yeah, I believe it. I believe that the best is yet to come.
That sounds like a lot of confirmations right now, man. Sounds like some stuff I said this morning. I promise you. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I know the Bible tells us like all things work together for the good of those that love God. I like to add in this little part, even though I know I'm not trying to add to the Bible. It just helps me, right, to keep this in mind, that even the things that we don't understand, like at the same time, it's like you probably had plans for your marriage. Both of you all probably had plans. You probably thought, you'd be sitting on the porch with a lemonade and whatnot. I think we all dream of things like that and whatnot. And when it didn't go that way, I'm sure it probably was disappointing and devastating and, all the different things. But look at what's come from it. God used all those things, though they be bad, like you said, to build you up in a whole different way. And now you're out here blessing people in a whole nother way. And so, I mean, it's an amazing thing that even the bad things can be used for good, ultimately.
Definitely. God is good. God is good. And I think that I don't believe God causes the bad things to happen. I think, we humans make mistakes, and that's the reality. And you can make mistakes and still be a good person. You can. We all mess up, but I do think God can take pain and heartache and turn it into something really quite beautiful. And I think that, and I know that mainly through my friends who have suffered a death in their life, and I've watched them just live that. And, my friend who lost her child to suicide, she was on a mission to get this specific place where he did it, make it safe for other people so that they wouldn't go do that jump. And she succeeded.
Mhm.
She moved mountains. I
Wow.
mean, that woman, she had government agencies calling her. They had her coming to their conferences to speak. She moved mountains out of love,
Mhm.
and she made a difference out of her pain and her grief.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
so yes, I'm preaching again.
Hey, look, it sounds like there are powerful stories in this
Yeah.
book and anything like that. So, friends, y'all gotta go check it out. Y'all gotta go get
Yeah.
it now.
Please.
Yes. Oh man, there's some more things I'm sitting here thinking about, but I mean, well, first, before I let you go, then I believe we have a mutual friend in common. Is that correct, or am I getting you mixed up with some?
Who, Kim
Yeah.
Sorrell? Yeah, Miss
Yes.
Love is. Yeah, I don't know her super well,
Yes.
but I've met her through author stuff, and oh my God, her
Mhm.
book is just amazing, and her story is amazing, and I feel so parallel to her because I took a year to go find myself, and she took a year to go find herself, and we both found
I
love.
was going to say,
We both found love and gratitude, and it's love for yourself that matters the most and comes first. Well, love of God,
mhm.
and then love for you, but
Yes.
it's
Yes.
it's hard to love anybody else if you don't love yourself. And I think Kim does a beautiful job telling her story,
Mhm.
and it's a tough story, but getting chased in Haiti by motorcycle gangs is pretty funny and cool.
Yeah, that
It
one.
did not happen
Yeah.
to me in Portugal.
I listen. First of all, I haven't been overseas yet. Still, I need to. Y'all be praying I get a passport. I would love to travel overseas and stuff like that. But I
Oh,
mean, I guess I'm kind of in regards to the people that I've met because I used to work at Disney. So I met people from around the world and, listen to them about what they had to say about different things. But
yeah.
hopefully one day I'll get to go. So that's one thing I guess you and Miss Kim, have done that I haven't done yet. Well, hopefully soon and
Yep.
whatnot. But well, yeah, that was definitely something I was gonna say that both of you guys took that year away or whatever the case is. And so it's amazing how things come together and like different people have these different pieces of this amazing puzzle of life. And so I'm glad to have met both of you all.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm so glad to meet you. And I think, somehow God put that on our hearts to go do it. And we did.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
and we both were stronger, better women when we came back from that journey. So, and
Mm,
what more could you want to be? Right? If you
listen,
listened, you trusted your intuition, you trusted what you were hearing from God, and you go and
mhm.
do. And
Yes.
hopefully that helps other people. And I know I'm on a mission like she is to help other people, and different stories, but different parallel paths for sure. She's cool.
Yes. Yeah, yes indeed. Yes indeed. I'm sitting here thinking now, do you have anything to say to us about obedience before you go?
Obedience.
Or
Oh, wow. Well,
yeah,
I
because
think
it seems like
that,
you were being very obedient.
well, I think yes, because obedience comes when you're not confident that you're walking down the right path, right? And I
Mhm.
think sometimes I say, I want a sign, or I want to hear from you before I decide to write this book, or I can't,
Mhm.
I can't get started because I'm not sure it's the right thing. And I remember I did get a sign, and I was very grateful for it, but I realized after the fact I wasn't being very obedient because the book had come
Mhm.
to me in a very, I think holy way. It just kind of
Mhm.
slowly unfolded for me, um and I wanted that sign to know that I wasn't making a huge mistake. But the second I started writing, and I guess I followed my instinct and my gut, I heard my God voice inside, and I started writing, and I wrote down the outline. That's when I got the sign. So I guess really did trust
Mhm.
before, but that sign meant everything to me, and I couldn't stop writing after that point. It just came through me. I wrote it in 3 months. It was just boom. And I'm so grateful for that. Of course, the interviews are a big part of the book, so that was the hard part. That was
Mhm.
the hard
Mhm.
part, was the interviews and editing all of that. But
I understand. Look, I totally understand. It got me thinking about in fact I do so many of these one-on-ones, but at some point I would do some panel discussions and stuff, and it's just so hard to get a group of people. Like it's so much easier to get like one But
Yeah.
anywho, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, to get 10 and
Well,
get it all lined up, to write it, edit it, and then
yeah.
get their approval. That took more time than me writing my stuff, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
But they were worth it.
That's why.
They were totally worth it.
Awesome. Well, ma'am, I would love for you to share with us where can we find the book and find out more information about you.
The book is available on Amazon, and it's called The Swipe Right Effect: The Power to Get Unstuck. You can also visit my website, which is ckcollins.co, not com.co. And I also have a special offer for people right now. I created a tip sheet called 10 Ways to Get Unstuck, and it's free. And I think I'll eventually sell it and turn it into like a little pamphlet or something. But it's some of the stuff from the it's just not in depth, but it's some ideas from the book. And I eventually want to turn that into and create a workbook out of all the exercises in the books. So they can get that at ckcollins.co under references. They can get that free tip sheet, and I can give you a link to that too.
Awesome. Awesome. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we let you go?
If anybody's stuck, I think I just want them to know that they have a lot of power, and the power is in the choice, and the choice of doing something, anything to get unstuck will change your life. Don't think that you're powerless. You're not. You have the power, and the power comes in choosing. Boom.
You know what? Thank you so much for, yes, indeed. Thank you so much for visiting us tonight. I hope that you enjoyed it. We enjoyed you, and you're welcome back anytime.
Oh, thank you. I had so much fun. You're a miracle. I bet somebody else has said that before. No, I really did have fun. So thank you so much. This has been a joy. I'm grateful.
Thank you. Thank you for watching the GSL Talk Show, and thank you to Miss C.K. Kelly Collins for joining us tonight. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and check out her book and all of her endeavors.